Hi, welcome to episode 7 of the Adventures of Foodini podcast. Today I thought I would talk about school. In a generalised sense, I suppose. Kids on the spectrum and school, it's tricky. I know for me, going to school, that was actually an escape for me. I actually enjoyed school. And I didn't enjoy the parts that I wasn't interested in. I did really well in things like English because I loved writing and I had that kind of, creative side. I loved drama, music, PE, physical education. But when it came to doing things that I absolutely had no interest in, like mathematics, I was not very good. And I don't think it is because I'm not good at math. I think it's just because I didn't want to apply myself, in that if there was a test coming up, I would choose not to study because it just did not interest me at all. And so there's also, the parts of, with ADHD, not prioritizing those things that do not interest you and leaving things to the last minute. I remember as a kid staying up very late at night the night before an assignment was due because I just kept putting it off because there was no interest in doing it. And then there was that sense of urgency that would come over me and help me cross the finish line, really. But yeah, it's been very interesting watching the, journey of my own child with schooling, because it's polar opposite, really. I loved school. I loved going to school. I don't think that structure had much to do with that. There's a few other bits and pieces in my childhood that influenced my relationship with school and the want to go. My brother was complete opposite. He didn't want to go to school. He had serious anxiety about it. And so I saw him in my son a little bit, going through that stuff. But it's obviously it's a more complicated beast when it comes to a child on the spectrum going to school that is also non-speaking. That is very daunting, and I can't even begin to imagine or understand how my son felt going into a brand new environment like that with all these new people and them not knowing what he wants. It's tricky because when our kids are little, you have this instinct of just knowing what they need and what they want. We speak their language, whether that's, grunting or muddled words that don't really make sense to any other person that hears them. So we become so in tune with our children, and they rely on that to a great extent when they're little. They feel safe and heard because they just know that you know. And so once they go off to school, it's like a whole bunch of people need to learn your child, and it's more complicated because they can't tell you what they want or what they need or what they like or what they don't like. And I don't think it has to be as complicated as it is. I think that if the right people are in the right jobs, they can pick up on these things. Kids, that body language is a massive one. It's literally a universal language. You can't get the complexities of what somebody needs through body language, but you can get a gist of whether or not someone's liking something or wants to be there or is struggling. There's a lot of problem solving that goes into everyday life with the non-speaking person, because you are constantly trying to work out. It's like trying to crack a code. It's like the Da Vinci Code, it's like, well, it's not this, but it's not that. But we do that anyway with our children when they're babies. And I'm not saying that a non-speaking person is a baby. What I mean by that is we are constantly trying to work out why a baby's crying, for example. And it's a process of elimination. And it's very similar in everyday life with a non-speaking person. You might go out somewhere and they get overwhelmed. So it's a process of elimination. Is it too crowded? Is it too noisy? Is it too bright? Are they just tired? Have they had enough? Did they not want to be here? There's so many different possibilities as to why somebody is not coping. And in a school environment, it is no different. There's so many different things. School, it's structured to some extent. And structure can be helpful, and sometimes it's not. I think everybody needs structure in their life. I know for my son, structure in everyday life helps him, even more so now that he's going through puberty and things. But flexibility, there's also a need for that. And it's weird. Like, it's a weird combination. You need structure but flexibility. And it's, like, he needs a firm but fair approach in his everyday life. He's just such a smart kid. Like, he just knows, and people often underestimate him. And that, I feel, comes down purely to the fact that he does not speak, and people often think because he doesn't speak, he doesn't understand, but that couldn't be further from the truth. So, with schooling, Phoenix didn't cope well. There's a lot of other reasons as to why that is the case, and I will not go into that at this point. But anxiety is a big one. I think for every kid on the spectrum, there's that anxiety of expectation. There's an anxiety of just having to be somebody that they're not in that kind of situation. I mean, school is it's structured in a sense of, I don't know, to me I feel like it takes your individuality away to some extent. You all dress the same, you all have to do the same, you all have to learn the same, and it's getting better. But when it comes to that kind of the core values of a schooling environment, that is pretty much remain the same. But there is something that has always stuck with me through this entire experience with my son. And full disclosure, he's now homeschooled, and I will actually talk about that in the next episode. But when he was going through schooling, and it was kind of at the end there before I pulled him out, and somebody that worked with him, who I grew very close to, said this to me, and it stuck with me. And I'm not sure, I mean, I am kind of sure, I guess, why it stuck with me now, but at the time I didn't really take much notice of what she'd said, but I carry it with quite an amount of weight now. And it was just 4 simple words: school isn't for everyone. And why not? I think I have that go, around in my head a lot now. And the context in which it was said was because he was struggling. And I thought, I get it. It can't be for everyone in the sense of everybody's different, right? But to me, the way that sentence is used, it's a cop-out. It's not for everyone. Why isn't it for everyone? Because there's a double standard when it comes to that kind of stuff. You're expected to give your child an education. They're entitled to an education, but yet school isn't for everyone. It doesn't sit well with me that there's that mentality. out there. I think there needs to be, school needs to be for everyone. You can't just go, well, that kid just doesn't cope, or, we don't know what to do, so school's just clearly not for everyone. I think it comes down to how things are dealt with. And during that time of his life, things were not dealt with properly. And there was this constant need for an answer as to why he was doing what he was doing. But there was this inability for anyone to look beyond blaming him for it. And that's wrong. He's not the only child out there that's happened to, and it wasn't his fault. There were a lot of contributing factors to him not being able to remain at school. And did pulling him out and homeschooling him, was that the answer? Absolutely. That I look at him now and I think, oh my, why didn't I do that earlier? The warning signs were there. But as a parent, especially your first child, or even your first special needs child, you may already have children that are not on the spectrum or have a disability, and so it's very different. And I mean, every child's different anyway, but hindsight is a wonderful thing. And I think about that a lot as well, because, you could pretty much supply that to any decision that you make. And I think there's that feeling of betrayal, that people saying, oh, this is what he needs and this is what is required. And so you go with those suggestions, I guess, because you don't know any better. It's like a doctor telling you that you need to take this pill to feel better. Well, you take it because that's the doctor and they know what they're talking about, right? So there's a very high level of trust involved, and when there's any trust involved with anything, there's always a potential that you're going to regret allowing that trust to somebody. But yeah, so I mean, from a schooling point of view, it is very hard, I imagine, to cater for everyone and their needs. I'm not saying that there's a solution that's easy. I'm saying there needs to be a solution, because you can't expect or place upon us that that need for a child to attend school and do this and do that, but then not give us the support to be able to accomplish that. I've seen it quite a lot now, and through what my son has been through in a schooling environment and with school, I've actually had quite a few parents and things come to me and share their experiences and their stories and their journeys, and it's scarily similar, and it shouldn't even be happening. I know growing up for me, I remember in primary school, we had an autism unit in our primary school. It was a very small school. I don't know, by the time I left, it was probably only 220 students. It's since been closed because it was so small. But I distinctly remember the autism unit. And these kids, they were in I don't really know how to explain it. It was like, the school was kind of like 2 stories, but it was like, I don't know, like not quite. It was like a half and half with 2 stories. But they were on the top, with the library and things like that. And the rest of the classes were down the bottom. And so they had their own classroom, and it was more like fitted out specifically for their needs. And it had like a gated kind of area, so they couldn't just wander out of the classroom and go for a wander around the school on their own. But they were always included in what we were doing. They were often doing things outside, or we'd have assembly, and these kids would be sitting in assembly and making noises, stimming, flapping, all that kind of stuff. And I remember them being there, but I don't remember it bothering me, or like, bothering's not the word, like distracting me from what was happening. It just felt normal for them to be there, because it is normal for them to be there. And that always stuck with me, because there was that inclusivity back then of just like, well, they have every right to be here just like everyone else. So, that's what happens. And yeah, it was not a big deal. Nobody was like, oh man, like I wish they'd be quiet, or why are they doing that? Or everyone was just like, that's just part of it. And I feel like we've gone backwards a little bit with that. And I don't know why. I guess maybe because there's more education around it, but that with more education becomes more like opinion, and not necessarily like opinion that is positive or even, educated in a sense of like real information. There's so much misinformation out there. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. But yeah, they were always included, and so they should be. And yeah, like there was still, I guess, that aspect of segregation in that they were in their own unit. Back then we did not have autistic kids, well, diagnosed autistic kids in our classroom. So, I mean, obviously I'm autistic and I was in the classroom, but nobody knew. But yeah, it just, so we have progressed. Autistic kids are now like integrated into traditional classrooms, but that in itself presents issues for everybody involved, because you've got the autistic kids that may not necessarily cope with that environment. And then you've got the neurotypical kids that may not cope with, I hate saying distraction, but the distraction of the autistic kids not coping. And I understand that point of view, because there's been a lot of complaints about that with teachers and things like that, going, well, I can't teach properly because there's a kid in my class that's autistic and he just keeps screaming and I just can't, like, how are we supposed to learn and this and that. And like, there is a fine line, because that kid is clearly not coping with that environment. And man, like school, I'm just trying to think of the right way to word these things, because it's quite controversial, and there is a lot of things going around about schooling in general, especially for kids that are on the spectrum. And I try to remain, impartial with this stuff, because everybody's different. Everyone needs different things. School works great for some people. School doesn't work great for others. And if it works great for your kid, that's fantastic. Like, hats off to you. That's amazing. If it doesn't, I get it. And it's just, I feel differently about school now than I did 5 years ago. And it comes down purely to personal experience. Our personal experiences have caused great skepticism about a lot of aspects of schooling. But the thing that I dislike the most is that pressure to be the same as everyone else, that it just kind of, it promotes lack of individuality. Like, you've all got to learn this curriculum. It doesn't matter what you like or what interests you. It doesn't come down to what you're good at and what you're not good at, because, like, at the end of the day, everyone's got different strengths and weaknesses. But to be pressured because you aren't as good at math, but you are good at English, but why aren't you good at math? Like, it is stripping away individuality, but then it's also pressuring for perfection, which it just, that's not the real world. Like, it's just not. It's we don't grow up and leave school and then we're just perfect at everything and we can have any job we want and we can do anything we want and we're good at everything, and like, it doesn't work that way. And to me, that feels like you're setting children up to fail, because there's this high expectation of, I'm not saying like tell your kids, oh well, it doesn't matter, and like have low expectation, but like making sure it's measured, because there's just like my kid's never done homework, because I'm like, well, you don't go to work all day as an adult and then go, oh, when you get home go, you know what, I think I might do some more work. Like, that's not normal. That's not, yeah. So to me, homework is just a ridiculous concept. It's, by all means, study for a test like you would for anything. You study for tests throughout your entire life, and, you go into a job interview, you research what, company you're going to do a job interview and things for. So that's cool. I get that. But the homework, doing all that extra work on top of the work you already are doing at school, it's just like, it doesn't make sense to me. But look, this is completely personal opinion, obviously. But yeah, I feel like the way that schooling works, it ultimately sets our kids up to fail, because there's like this unreasonable expectation. And the real world doesn't look like that. It's, even certain things we learn, like, unless you're going to be like an engineer or something, which there are people out there that are going to be that. But like, I didn't need quadratics in high school. I didn't need calculus. Like, I never went on to use those things. Was I ever going to go on to use those things? No, because it didn't interest me. I did up to year 10, and then due to personal circumstances, I didn't do year 11 and 12, but I went back and I studied as a mature age student at TAFE, and that was like the best thing I ever did, because I chose exactly what interested me, exactly what I wanted to do, and I had no trouble applying myself to that because I loved it. And so I did a diploma in law and justice, and absolutely loved it, learned so much, use all of that knowledge to this day. And it's actually come in really handy over the years where we've had some issues. So yeah, it's a passion thing. And like most kids on the spectrum, they want to do their passions, which is fair enough. I think everybody should be allowed to pursue that stuff. Like, that's just, you go to university, what do? You don't go and study a degree that doesn't interest you. You're studying something that does. So I don't know why that doesn't start at the beginning. Like, I understand that, we need basic skills like reading and writing and basic math, but yeah, most kids leave high school and things, they don't even know how to do a tax return. It's like, just life skills is a big one too. And I'm a firm believer that life skills should be in every school from the beginning. And they often are in certain subjects, like there's often we're doing things like cooking and things. But yeah, I think it's very important that curriculum and stuff is based off realistic everyday need and not just random stuff that's never going to be used. But anyway, now I am just ranting. So yeah, it's, I could talk all day about this subject. But yes, school is not for everyone. That, to the person who said that to me all those years ago, no, I do not accept that. That it should be for everyone. It's supposed to be for everyone. So yeah, using that line, it's a cop-out, 100%. You're just saying that because you can't deal with that particular person, or you don't have a solution, or you're not equipped, or whatever the case may be. But 100% cop-out. It's, yeah, it should be for everyone. It's supposed to be for everyone. So to say that it's not, yeah, because my kid is now homeschooled. Yes, okay, that's not school in a traditional sense, but he's still being educated and schooled, so to speak, and he's doing just fine. So it's the changes that were made to ensure that he could cope, and now he's thriving, and that's all you can really ask for. So yeah, I think that just about does it, or I will just continue to rant and get a bit revved up, because this is, as you will grow to discover, it is a very passionate topic that I will cover, and yeah, more on that at some stage. But until next time, be kind to yourself.